In order to be successful for today, you need to have a whiteboard and your notes out and ready to go. Let's do it. All right, Frank. Got you off guard today, huh, girl? So, everyone should have their notes out and a whiteboard. Tomorrow, you have a test. It is 25 questions, all multiple choice. I've already recorded your primary source, so you don't have to turn that in because it's already online. And you have a focus and a map tomorrow, yes? Is there any joy out there? That's okay. That's okay. Yes, you're a vocab next week. I don't know. All right, here we go. So I have 2 videos that are going today. I'm going to kind of move towards the Asian stuff today with you guys. Is that okay? So you will watch the second half of my business stuff. I will tell you, you'll probably appreciate that I am going over this with you now. Because on your test, what do you think you have more of? Asian or business stuff?
Asian.
There you go. So here we go. So I would skip some space in your notes, or you can see the end of your notes or something like that, or write a little note saying that we're coming back to this in your notes, or you can skip it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ottoman Empire's response. You're all sitting there with frumpy faces on. Oh. I know Logan and Fryer are the most mad at me, but it'll be okay. It's okay. Here we go. So we're talking the mid-1800s of the Ottoman Empire. Please make sure you're acknowledging that. Okay, how do the Ottomans feel about industrialization, Joseph?
They don't like it.
They have been anti, except in one part. What is the one part of the Ottoman Empire that has said some industrialization? Andrew?
Egypt.
Egypt has had some. So now they're going to start kind of catching up. Now, you do need to know that the Ottomans, and you should write this down, the Ottomans realize they are significantly behind their European counterparts. So they're going to attempt to catch up. How do you think it's going to go for them? It's not going to go well for them, but they're going to try, and that's nice, because trying matters too. All right, so your first major attempt is by Sultan Mahmud II. The first major attempt, and this is for the whole Ottoman Empire. When we talked about the Egyptian changes, that was just in Egypt, which is a component of it. Now we're looking at it as a whole. Here we go. So, Mahmud II is going to abolish the Janissaries. Who can raise their hand and tell me what the Janissaries are? What do you got, Parker?
Is that when the Christian boys fought in the Ottoman?
Absolutely. So, they're going to abolish them for the first time in the 1820s. That's a long time, because they've been doing this since the 1496. So that's a long time. Okay? They are going to have a modernized, and you're going to put in quotes, modernized, military, European style. Okay? They are also going to abolish feudalism. Okay? And they're going to make a postal service. Dun, dun, dun. How exciting. Okay? All right. So, this is the first attempt at industrializing the Ottoman. And these seem kind of simple, but it is very hard to do. Keep in mind, this empire's been around since 1496, so it does take time to kind of make the changes. So, your second attempt, and this should be the next heading, your second attempt is the Tanzamat Reforms, which is right here. The second attempt is the Tanzamat Reforms. And this is this starts in 1839, just so you have a reference. Right here, Jory. Okay, so the Tanzamat Reforms. They are trying to secularize the Ottoman Empire. They are trying to secularize the Ottoman Empire. Why are they trying to do this? Why, Taylor? Is Europe super religious at this point? Mm-mm. After the Enlightenment, we start seeing a huge drop-off in religion. Now, I'm not trying to tell you there's no religion in Europe. It just becomes less important. Does that make sense? Okay, it's no longer the defining factor of who a person is. Because, as we're going to get back to, we have the Napoleonic Age. The Napoleonic Age in Europe is going to usher in this freedom of religion. So it doesn't matter what religion you are, it is going to be accepted. That's a huge deal about the Napoleonic Code. With that being said, Europe is moving beyond religion, and the Ottomans are known distinctly for their religious components. Like their millets. What's a millet? What's a millet, Parker?
There were separate branches of like law based on religious.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very older way to think about things. So they're trying to shed these super religious components and trying to move forward. So you need to know that they are going to try to secularize the Ottoman Empire. They are going to try to root out corruption. That's a huge component. Okay, now, under Hati Human, you do need to know that he is going to modernize, in quotes, the legal system and make all men equal. Oh my God, all men are equal. Woo! Okay, now keep in mind, this is very contingent. When they say all men, do you think they mean all men? No, there's still going to be components and aspects that are not. Just like when we say all men are equal in our Declaration of Independence and in our Constitution, do we mean that? No, because not even all men in the United States could vote. So, we're just talking about all white men in ours. All right, so effects of reform on the Ottoman. Here we go. Effects of reform, ladies and gentlemen. Olivia, I think we can agree that desk already has enough doodling without your additions. Yes, thank you. Okay, so you do need to you need to write down the reforms in the Ottoman Empire. You're going to see more money flowing. It's going to be a cash society, which is a big deal. Beforehand it was commodities, now it's going to be money based. You do need to know that there is small, and I would underline small, amounts of industrialization. So, because there's more money available, more people are starting businesses. When the economy is doing well, more businesses open. When the economy is doing poorly, less businesses open. And if you were going to start a business at this time, you would want to do an industrial age one. Okay? So, you need to put a big star. Women lose rights under these reforms. Okay, so your third round of reforms. Your third round. So we have our first is Sultan Mahmud, second is the Tanzamat, and your third is the Young Turks. The Young Turks are going to be exiled first. What does it mean to be exiled? What does it mean to be exiled, Hayden?
It means you're like forced to leave.
Yeah, they're kicked out of the country at first. They're going to come back in and lead a coup. You need to know that. So they're going to be forced out of the country in exile, and then they're going to come back and lead a coup. C-O-U-P with the little arrow above the P. What is a coup? What is a coup, Henry?
When the military goes against the government.
Okay, it is when the government is overthrown internally by a small group of people. If it's half the country fighting against the other half of the country, it's a civil war. But if it's a small group of people overthrowing a country, then it is a coup. So they're going to have a successful coup. You need to put big star. It is successful. It's one of the few in history. Haiti just had a coup about a month and a half ago. What do you got?
How do you spell coup again?
C-O-U-P with the little fancy French little arrow above P. Okay, so that is where we're going to leave off on the Ottomans, because next week we're going to pick up on the Young Turks, and that's what you need to know about the Young Turks. So they're coming. Does that make sense? There are 3 waves of industrialization, the third wave, and the final wave is going to be the Ottoman Turks. And that will be it for the Ottomans. They die under the Ottoman Turks. Perfect. China. Couple things you need to know about China. Okay? China is invaded, and I would underline invaded. China is invaded by European countries post-Opium War. These countries sign unequal treaties. I would use that word, unequal treaties. I'd even put a box around it. China will sign unequal treaties with these countries and lose control over their economy. Okay. Who is leading this conflict? Who makes people sign contracts? That's their whole motif. Who's the country that does all the damn contracts, Izzy?
The British.
The British are going to lead the way, and I'd make sure you know that the British are the ones leading this imperializing component. Okay, but the French are doing it just like we did on our map in China. We saw all those countries in China. All of them are doing it, but it's the British who are leading the way. Okay, so China. Okay, so skip a space. China is trying to industrialize to attempt to save themselves.
Is this like a heading?
No, it's kind of like underneath it. So the British have taken over because of the Opium War, and they've divided it up because of unequal treaties. So the Chinese are realizing, oh shit, this isn't good. So they're trying to modernize, okay, so they can protect themselves. How do you think that's going to go? No. No, it is not. China doesn't industrialize and have their own independence until 1950. So things are not going to go well. So the first attempt at modernizing is going to be the self-strengthening movement. So the first attempt is going to be the self-strengthening movement. Okay? Now, the Qing Dynasty, Qing, the Qing Dynasty is going to try to modernize / industrialize to compete against Europe. What's a little too late? The Qing. Because the British, the French, the German, the Russians are already there. Okay? So, the problem is that it's not going to help. However, it is going to have two major accomplishments, and you do need to know that. It is going to increase its military power. Okay, so the military prowess is going to increase, and they're going to build ships for the first time ever. Why didn't China have any ships?
Because they were exploring.
Okay, they weren't exploring, so saying, hey, there's a couple ships, but why don't the Chinese have a huge navy? Why, Ainsley?
Aren't they keeping the port small so the British couldn't put their big...
Of course, so they are going to do that, but why didn't the Chinese have a ton of ships? Oh no. Why did they have a ton of ships? Because England has a ton of ships, Spain has a ton of ships, Portugal has a ton of ships. Izzy?
They were conquesting.
No. Henry?
They were industrializing.
Well, no. Wesley?
Was there like Iceland?
No, they're not isolated. Oh no. Parker?
Actually, no.
Okay. Izzy?
They didn't have the technology.
No, they had the technology. The center of the world was China. What do you got, Scott?
Oh, you know, using ships to trade.
Why?
Because they had like the Silk Road, so you can trade.
James, help me out here.
So that was missing.
Guys, they didn't have any ships because everyone came to them. Doesn't that make sense? Everyone's bringing their ship to bring all their stuff home. Why don't you write that down? The Chinese did not have a navy or many ships at their control because they didn't need them, because everyone came to them. that make sense? Yeah. Like they've never been known for their navies. Now, is that a huge problem now? Yeah, huge problem now. Anyway, okay, so what is going to happen with the self-strengthening movement? The goal was to stabilize the government and continue. The goal was to stabilize the government, and it does a pretty good job at that. It does stabilize the Chinese component of it. However, who's still there, ladies and gentlemen? All of Europe is still in their house, but they do a pretty good job about stabilizing. But do they kick anyone out? No. So then we have round 2 of the attempt, and the second type is 100 days reform. So the first round is a self-strengthening movement. They're just trying to make themselves better. The second attempt is 100 days reform. Okay, 100 days reform happens after China tries fighting with Japan. Now, what is unique about Japan? You can remind me, what makes Japan super unique at this moment, Jory? Absolutely, they're the only Asian country industrialized. So because of that, who wins? Japan. They give a butt whooping to China. Okay, now, so China's trying to show some dominance because the Japanese are trying to colonize some of their territory. The Chinese try to fight back, but they get their butts handed to them. And they're like, oh shit, this is a big deal. So, what they do is they do an incredibly quick and severe reforms. You need to acknowledge that this is quick and severe. Everyone is moving at a hastened pace. How fast is this pace? 100 days, people. It's supposed to be super quick, okay? Now, the whole point of it is to modernize China as quick as possible because they're like, holy shit, this is happening here. We're going to lose China. So the first thing they do is abolish the civil service exam. Yeah, that thing is still happening. Okay, so they abolish the civil service exam. They try to eliminate corruption, and they try to incorporate Western ideas into the government, economy, and medical systems. Now, this is done very quickly. How well do you think it's implemented? Not well. Things rushed usually aren't done well. Can we agree? Okay, so things are not going to go well for China. Okay, so reactions is your next heading. Okay, so reactions in China. You do need to know that the Qing leadership is going to be killing each other. Is that a good look when your country's killing each other's leaders? No. Over who should lead. Okay? Now, the people of China are pissed or are upset over European powers' control over China's economy. Okay? And a big star. All of these reforms will lead to more influence by foreign powers. So did it work? Nope. Okay, so China, the Qing, Okay, so you're gonna put a big star. China will not gain independence until 1911. All right, that's it for China. Let's do some boards, shall we?
So
Let's-
that's all.
1911. All right, here we go. What is the name of the first dude to try to attempt to industrialize the Ottoman Empire. Who's the first guy? Sophia, can you grab the cat that's by your boot, please? Please and thank you. Good. Who is it, Joseph? There you go. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what do we call the second attempt to industrialize or reform in the Ottoman Empire? Good. What do we got, James? Tanzamat. On your whiteboard, please tell me, who is the final ruling party of the Ottoman Empire? They are going to be the most Western thinkers. They're even going to implement a constitution. But it's going to fail. What do you got, Logan? Young Turks. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what is the name of the first, please tell me, no, not first, please tell me, what is the most extreme of the Chinese attempts at industrialization called? What is the most extreme of the Chinese reform? Sophia?
100 days reform.
On your whiteboard, please tell me what is concerning, but, they are going to slowly roll out changes in order to try to compete against European nations. They are going to be enlisting changes, and they are going to find out these changes were not severe enough. Good. Come on now. What attempt at the first? What do you got, Neil? Self-strengthening movement. The answer, what I wanted to say, which wasn't very articulate, was, what is the first attempt of China to try to industrialize and modernize, and that would be self-strengthening movement. Does that make sense? I did not articulate that well, but that's okay. We're going to move on. Your answer is either going to be China or Ottoman. Sounds good? Okay, so you're going to write an O or a C on your board. Which one is trying to become more secular? Scott? Ottomans. On your whiteboard, which one is currently invaded by foreigners? Cassidy. China. On your whiteboard, which one will be more successful of the two? Ooh. The answer is, Taylor? Ottomans. The Ottomans are successful because are we calling them successful in regards to European nations at the time? No. But they are able to keep people out of their empire, yes? Okay, they're able to not be colonized by Europeans, and they are able to industrialize to the slightest degree. Is it enough to keep them sustainable? No, and they are going to fail. China gets completely overtaken and it gets stripped down. On your whiteboard, please tell me, China or Ottomans, which one is going to fall prey to the Europeans? Good. What do we got? I'm just trying to see who I have back there. Micah. China. What year is the official start of Chinese independence? Good. What do we got? Wesley. Perfect. Let's go to Japan. All right, here we go. So, Japan. So, in 1871, the Japanese are going to ban samurai and other aspects of the Tokugawa shogunate. The Tokugawa shogunate is a what type of system? Who can raise their hand? This is a throwback here. Catherine. It's a feudalistic society, absolutely. And now it's been replaced by the... What's the new one? It was on my board up front last week. It starts with an M. What do you got, Andrew? Meiji Restoration is what has overcome. So now the emperor has more power. Okay? It's no longer a decentralized system. It's now a centralized system. If you didn't know those things, I would maybe make a note of it. So, the samurai are part of the decentralized system or the Tokugawa shogunate. Okay, they were controlled by the shoguns. Well, the shoguns are gone, and now we're in a centralized government. They're also trying to modernize. So, this idea of having samurai is not a good look. So, they ban them. going to see is that the samurai are going to unify. Okay? They're going to unify and try to fight the Japanese government. This is seen as old versus new. Who wins? The new. The samurai get obliterated. Because the samurai are using samurai swords versus the modern Japanese government is going to have a Gatling gun. And what's a Gatling gun?
Machine gun?
It's a machine gun. It's your first attempts at a machine gun. And all you have to do is keep turning the crank and it just keeps firing about 10 rounds at a time, I think, or something like that crazy. I don't know. I'm not a guns person, but it's like crazy continuous fire. And who gives it to them? Yeah! Gatling gun was first used in the American Civil War. That was the first major war to use it. It's developed at the end of the Napoleonic Wars, and then we use it in full force in the American Civil War, which is why we were the deadliest war until we get to the World Wars. Oh, we're not excited about that? Got it. All right. Anyway, so, ladies and gentlemen, so this is going to be seen as a huge cultural loss, though. You do need to know that. Okay, it is seen as a huge cultural loss for Japan. Now, if you learned anything from watching these samurais, the greatest warriors in China, getting mowed down by essentially a machine gun, you learn not to fight the government, yes? Second thing is that even though you're sad about the changes, you should probably not say anything about it because you're going to just get shot. Okay, so we see a whole new era in the transition of Japan. Okay, it is the end of that. However, the Japanese are going to benefit from freedom of press, education reforms, and other Western ideas. So, the Japanese are going to lose a ton of their cultural component, their samurai, some of the arts that are tied to it. However, they're also going to improve because they get better education. They're going to industrialize very quickly. So they have that economic stability, as well as some democratic components. Underline some, because Japan isn't going to be forced to embrace democracy until 1945. And why are they forced to embrace democracy in 1945? Yeah, they lost World War II, and we were there for 7 years in occupation. We occupied Japan for 7 years, and we forced them to. Yes.
What year was it?
1945. All right. Okay, so overall, ladies and gentlemen, that will be your next segment. Say overall is your next heading. Okay, overall, the Ottomans wanted to industrialize, but their leaders were too weak to do it. So why didn't they industrialize? Poor leadership. Okay, China. They're going to attempt to industrialize. Too late. And will be stopped by the Europeans. Why don't European powers want Chinese to fully industrialize? Henry.
So then they can fight back.
Then they can fight back and they don't want to deal with it. So if they keep them, it's just like, would you rather, like, fight someone your same strength, or would you rather fight someone weak? If you're going to fight someone, who you pick the biggest, baddest guy in the room, or you pick the little weakling in the corner?
Weakling.
Yeah. Really beat up on the weak kid. Hell yeah. Teach that kid a lesson. Just kidding. See? I get it. Okay. And then finally, Japan. You need to know that they are rapidly industrializing. And conservative members are going to resist, but succumb. All right, there we go. All right, effects on society. Okay, effects on society. We are moving right along here, friends. So, effects on society. A couple big things you need to know. The middle class is finally getting comfortable. Yay! Because if the middle class is doing well, that is a good sign for your entire country. Now, here in the United States in 2021, is the United States doing well, or are we kind of faltering? We're faltering, which means times are tough, which is why, Cassidy, why the cost of Thanksgiving going up $50 a table is a huge deal, and that could break some families. So that's a big problem with the cost of inflation, with supply chain issues, and the fact that some items are costing too much, so our retailers are having to increase prices. Okay, second thing you need to know is that the poor live in terrible conditions. I think we can agree that being poor in any time would suck. Yes? Being poor in the Industrial Revolution is the worst time to be poor. Okay? If you're poor as a feudal farmer, you kind of look like the next poor people next to you. Does that make sense? But the difference between the middle class and the poor is substantial. Women are spending less time at home, which is positive for us. Thank God. Okay? Middle class women are spending more time at home. Why do you think, and this is good until the 1970s, why do you think middle class women are staying home? Why, Wesley?
There wasn't income from the old,
Okay, so yes, they can afford it, but what's the other side of it? Why do women or some stay-at-home husbands today do it? Why? It's also a couple of things, Henry.
take care of the kids.
Okay, obviously to take care of the kids, but it's also a what? Izzy?
Status symbol.
It's a status symbol, ladies and gentlemen. Most people are working at this time, so being able to take off work shows that you have the money to do it. It's just like foot binding. Okay, it's not really the same as foot binding, but it's one of those things that just shows status. All right, and more leisure activities. Okay, now that we have things called weekends, people want to actually go in, do their weekends. They want to have a plan, just like us. Okay, some of you who are taking a 4-day weekend this week. Yeah, good for you. Are you guys got big plans? Leisure activities. Yeah. Here we go. All right. Tenements. Okay. Tenements are not apartments. Please note that. Tenements are not apartments. Tenements are rooms. With no windows, usually, and no running water. And usually owned by factories. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you would have in one tenement or one room, 8 by 10 foot room, you would have 12 to 15 people. There's a really famous photographer in New York City and the turn of like the 1850s who used a new technology called a camera and would go into these tenements and light like a firecracker kind of thing to light the room with light and take a photo of the room. And these famous photos are what are going to change the laws of housing and all these things. This is where diseases and all this stuff took off, and it's absolutely disgusting environments. And this is for the poorest of the poor are living in these tenements. These are the center of diseases being spread. Remember, we're having more people interacting at a single time than ever before, so diseases are rampant. It is absolutely horrible. Okay, because of the terrible conditions, you need to note this, reforms are made for building codes. What's a building code? What's a building code, Hayden?
Aren't they just like kind of like the rules that come with moving in somewhere?
Yes. So what would be a building code that you would know of, Hayden?
Don't they like have to have like running water?
Yes, yes, they have to have some sort of running water. They also have to have at least one window. They also have to have a toilet. or access to multiple toilets. Because you used to live in these tenements and they used to have like 3 bathrooms on the first floor. That's it for a building that holds like 500 people. Okay, so we're going to start having building codes, which makes builders more responsible. So if you have a house that there's not enough fire exits, what happens to the builder? They get sued. They get sued for tons and tons of money and lose their license. So now all of a sudden buildings are being built better. Okay, clean water is now mandatory in all 50 states. The city is responsible for all water provided and making sure it has clean access to houses. Now, the house is controlled by the contractor. So if the house does not have clean water, that's because the contractor didn't hook it up correctly. Does that make sense? But the city has to have a line out to these houses, streets, where they can access it. Do we see the difference between the two? Okay, and then removing trash is a huge component. Beforehand, there was no official trash collection. So what do you think everything was? Keep in mind, we're living in tenements, so people didn't have access to toilets. So what else is in the streets? And it's also what most people can't afford cars, so most people are still using horses. So you have human feces, animal feces, garbage, decaying food, all of this going into your water. That's a huge problem, okay? So all of these things need to change, and these are the types of changes that are happening. Can we agree this is a terrible time to be a poor person? Okay, so effects on class structure. Okay, we started having this term called white collar and blue collar. We still use these terms today. Who can explain to me what a white collar person is? What's a white collar, Parker?
Office worker?
Yeah, they're an office worker. Someone who doesn't sweat. They sit there and use their brain, and they typically have some sort of higher education, especially today. Okay? All of you are probably dreaming of a career being a white collar something, yes? Okay? You get plenty of paid time off. You don't break a sweat. You don't need to use your hands to do much except for typing and responding to emails. And there's some sort of education tied to it. Then you have blue collar workers. Blue collar workers are people who use their hands. They only make money when they're working. You should probably make note of these. Who would give me an example of a blue collar worker in today's 2021 society? What do you got, Olivia?
Construction worker.
Construction worker. They only, okay, some construction, now people get paid time off, but like they only are making money while they're working. What else is another profession? Taylor? Restaurant workers, absolutely. If I'm not working at my restaurant job, which I did on Sunday, I'm not making money at my restaurant. Can we agree? Okay, but I did work on Sunday, and I made a hella ton of money. Okay? Seriously, a lot of cash. Christmas is paid for. Yes. Okay, not completely, but a huge step forward. Anyway, okay, so we have white collar and blue collar. We are also have factory workers. Okay, so factory workers are menial laborers. They are people who require no education. Blue collar workers require some basic education. Factory workers are going to require zero education. You get on-the-job training. Okay, women is our next column. Okay, cult of domesticity. Okay, cult of domesticity will hurt women. It will hurt women because it portrays women as housewives and nothing else. That the only good women stay home. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is that a realistic picture of what's happening at this time? No, but it is used as a weapon to hurt women. Guess what is still used as a weapon to hurt women? Cult of domesticity. I will tell you right now, I took last year off. Okay, I was a stay-at-home mom, and it had its perks. I took a nap every day, and that was glorious. Okay, my house was super clean. Today, but I will tell you, when I was coming back to work, people were like, "Is that really in the best interest of Henry?" Yeah, he should see his mother who balances work and family life just like her dad, like your dad. Okay, he needs to see me in a position of authority where I'm making money and I'm in control of my professional career. Can we agree? Hence why I'm back, making lots of money. Okay, second part was a lot, but here I am nonetheless. Okay, so cult of domesticity still follows you today. I'm sure every single young lady in this room has had some awkward encounter where they're like, "Oh my God, so are you gonna go for a career or are you gonna start a family after you go to college?" Because once you graduate college, your whole family's gonna be like, "Oh, are you gonna start a family or you're gonna go to work?" What's the point of going to college if you're not gonna use the damn degree? All right, legacy, see ya, that's it. Are we cranky about our seats?
We'll hold over here.
Good.
I was waiting for a dean there.
No, Neil.
Miss Bennett, how much more of the lecture do we have? Like,
That was it. Oh, there's like a little bit more for experience.
is it going to be on the test?
Yes, of course. That's why I recorded it and posted it. Oh, you could have left on the table. Thank you very, very, very much.